Hello, lovely people. Today I am going to be summarizing and talking about my thoughts on the book Remarkably Bright Creatures. You might be wondering who the hell I am. Um, this avatar was made by my lovely friend Ori, who I can link in the description, and they made it for me based on one of the characters from my books, a book that I'm writing specifically. So, if if you're interested in that service, I will link in the description. Before we go forward, I would like to preface that the background music is awful because I wanted the background music to be Aquarium by Camille Saint-Saëns, but I knew I would get copyrighted, so I made it into a MIDI file, and it sounds like a pianist got drunk. Anyways, let's start talking about the book. I have this little transition. Yeah, this is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I hope the audio's not too loud. Anyways, let's meet our first character. His name is Marcellus. As you can tell, I really like this sound effect. Marcellus, he is a giant Pacific octopus, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it's an octopus and they get really big, but they can only live for 1,460 days. I'm getting ahead of myself though. One fun fact about Marcellus, the giant Pacific octopus, is that he is orange. And another fun fact about Marcellus, the giant Pacific octopus, is that he completely understands English. He even knows how to read it, and he also understands the passage of time, which I think is a bit weird. Marcellus has been in the aquarium for 1,299 days of his lifespan, but they can only live to be 1,460 days. So if we do the math, he is only able to live 160 more days, so he is very depressed. Now, put your thinking caps on, because I have a conundrum with this. As we later learn, Marcellus is captured and brought to the aquarium, and he's not born there. So, that means that he would have lived a significant amount of time before his 1,299 days of captivity, which means that he would be older than 1,460 days old at the end of the book, which nothing bad happens to him, by the way. Anyways, that's my little conundrum. It messed with me a lot. Anyways, he longs for the open seas that he once knew and loved. I forgot this was on here. Next, we meet Tova Sullivan. What you need to know about Tova Sullivan is that she's a custodian for the Sowell Bay Aquarium. She is an old woman who does hard labor to try and avoid her grief for, first of all, we have Eric. Eric is Tova's son who died before his 18th birthday. His death was ruled as a suicide, but Tova suspects foul play was involved. And then there's Will, which is Tova's late husband, who passed away either due to a sickness or old age. As you can tell, I wrote this before I finished the book, so I wasn't sure. I'm pretty sure he died from a sickness. And there are 3 unnamed nitwits. And basically the nitwits are like a group of people that Tova Sullivan gets together with to go knitting. Yeah, there's 3 of those motherfuckers who are dead. So she is grieving for them as well. Tova Sullivan is also a nitwit. Yeah, there used to be 7 members, now there's only 4. I think I'll mention them if they're important. I made this a long time ago. So Marcellus' escapades.
Giant piles of bubble gum!
I didn't know it was going to do that. Tova's cleaning and she stops by Marcellus' tank, greeting him before okay, I'm sorry, that really miscombobulated me. Tova is cleaning and she stops by Marcellus' tank and she says hello to him, obviously, before she resumes cleaning, and there's gum stuck to the floor. So
giant piles of bubble gum!
That's why that audio played. Anyways, Tova goes into the staff room and she finds that the trash can has been knocked over and there are takeout containers all over the floor. Because it's her job, she fixes up the room, and she's probably wondering to herself what her coworkers are up to because they completely trashed the place. But then she finds the culprit behind the mess himself. I'll give you one guess who it is. It's Marcellus. Marcellus ends up, he got tangled in some cords in the corner, and he got stuck after he got into the trash and ate the leftover takeout. So Tova is like, oh, it's okay, baby. And Tova unplugs the cords to free Marcellus. And whenever she does this, he's like, hey, yo, we're friends now. And so he wraps a tentacle around her wrist, and he leaves a quote-unquote silver dollar star, which is like the name of the chapter or whatever, so roll credits. It's just like his suction cup leaves a mark on her. I don't know why only one left a mark on her. Don't ask me. Marcellus' thoughts about the situation. Marcellus frequently escapes his tank, as we can tell. So basically what he does is there's a tube in the back that he can disconnect, and then he can fit through a gap in order to find food better than the frozen herring he is giving. For food. He really hates frozen herring.
Disgusting!
Once again, I'm so sorry. I made this presentation so long ago, I don't remember any of the sound effects in it. So he hates this. His favorite food, I think, is... I don't remember. He likes to eat outside his tank. He likes to eat the shrimps. He likes human food because he can read English, so why wouldn't he like human food? Anyways, the amount of time he can be outside of his tank for is 18 minutes, or else he faces the consequences. And the consequences just means that he dies. He is very grateful to Tova that he saved him from the consequences, and he is actually very surprised that a human helped him. Meet Cameron Castmore. Now, I didn't know what he looked like, so I just imagined he was a typical white boy. So that's why there's this picture. Cameron Castmore. He's a 30-year-old man. I thought he was a lot younger than that. He's 30-something, I guess. And he is struggling to keep a job. He's like a deadbeat. He was raised by Aunt Jean after being abandoned by a drug addict mother named Daphne Ann Castmore. You better remember that. That's important. And despite this, he is shown to be very intelligent and very skilled. Cameron lives with his girlfriend Katie. Just kidding! She breaks up with him instantaneously as soon as the book begins, because she hates him. The reason she breaks up with him is actually because he lost another job and he lied to her about it. So we can kind of assume that this means that lying has been a consistent issue in their relationship. So anyways, he goes to stay with his best friends Brad and Elizabeth. And they're like really successful, and like I think they're preggers as well. And he's like really jealous of their success. Oh yeah, he's a part of a band, and it's called Moth Sausage, and his friend Brad, I think, is a member of Moth Sausage. And then actually, I'm just kidding, because everyone hates Cameron. They're disbanding the band because Brad is having his baby. I think Brad is like the lead singer or the lead guitarist or something, so it's like really imperative that he's a part of the band. So Cameron is devastated. Meet Ethan Mack. Oh, this music just keeps going, doesn't it? So Ethan Mack is an old man who owns his own grocery store, and it's called the Shopway. He tries not to hold himself above others, but he does give himself preferential treatment, such as allowing himself breaks. He's Scottish, actually, if you couldn't tell by the last slide. He's from Kilberry. He traveled to the USA so he could chase a lass named Cindy. Cindy and him traveled across the entire country in a Volkswagen, and they had sex and stuff, and they got married. And then when the transmission of the Volkswagen went out, she actually, like, instantaneously left him. Like, in the middle of the night, without a word, she just left. Ethan Mack naturally has a crush on Toph Sullivan, but he's afraid to act on it because his past experiences with love have traumatized him. And also Tova is like a widow, so he's like afraid. He smokes a pipe, by the way. I don't know why I thought that was important, but he does. Tova and Ethan go on a date? Late one night, Tova receives a call from her brother's nursing home. It's called the Charter Village Long-Term Care Center, which I'm definitely not going to remember. Anyways, her brother's named Lars, and he is dead now. An attorney of Lars' estate named Bruce LaRue, which I also probably will not remember, he seeks out Tova to tell her that she has to pick up his belongings lest they be disposed of. So because Ethan Mack is the one who told Bruce LaRue where to find Tova, Tova is kind of pissed off at him, and she is like, I don't like driving, and you are going to drive me to Bellingham to pick up Lars' belongings because it is your responsibility, because you were the one who told them where to find me. So while he waits for Tova to do her thing, Ethan goes on a tour of the facility, and he's like, oh, this place is kind of nice. And then after they do that, among the belongings that, Tova has picked up from the Charter Village Long-Term Care Center, Ethan notices that she has an application. Because Tova low-key is getting tired of life. She knows she can't do this hard labor forever, and she is thinking about being alone and her long-term care plans. Marcellus' escapades again. Terry Bailey, I think that's the owner of the aquarium. I don't know why I didn't say that. So Terry has become suspicious of Marcellus, and he's going to the hardware store so he can get wood to block the hole in the back of his tank. And as such, when Tova sees Marcellus about to escape, she warns him against it, actually. And she's like, you naughty boy, you're gonna get caught, and you are going to never be able to escape again. And Marcellus beckons her to the back of the tank. He's like, come here, baby. So Marcellus? Whoa. Marcellus convinces Tova to open the door of his, or not the door, but he's the top compartment of the tank, and he wraps an arm around her, and he almost pulls her aside, but then he darts back to his den and retrieves an object which he hands to her, which is a missing key, which is peculiar. But Marcellus picked up her key when she lost it about a year ago because he recognized it as being familiar because the key was the same one as the one he found on the ocean floor with a corpse, ... aka, dead son Eric. And he found the matching key. That's right, Marcellus knows what happened to Eric. Tova's escapades. One day, Tova is standing on a stool to reach her arm in the tank, because of course she is. She converses with Marcellus, and she tells him about how Eric died, because she's sad and lonely. Good thing he can speak English. Anyway, she loses her balance, and the stool falls over, and she falls over. And even though she's initially fine, when she's walking on it the next day, she finds herself in immense pain and she's hardly able to walk. So she makes an appointment with Dr. Remy. She learns that she has sprained her ankle. And this means she has to be in a booth for up to 6 weeks. So for the first time in her entire life, Tova is forced to take off work. Due to her injury and a second fall that takes place later, Tova becomes even more convinced that it is necessary for her to go live at the Charter Village long-term care facility. Cameron's escapades. Desperate for cash, Cameron looks through his mother's box of belongings. Oh yeah, at the beginning, his aunt gives him a box of belongings that belong to his mother. That was redundant. But anyways, he's looking through them because he wants to pawn things off. He finds a lot of junk, but some jewelry that he plans on pawning, including the jewelry is a class ring from Sowell Bay High School, which, if you remember, Sowell Bay is where our story is taking place. Not yet for Cameron, because he hasn't traveled there, but there's an old photograph of his mother with a stranger when she was young, and he presumes that this is his father. Anyways, the class ring has the initials on it, and it's like 1989, and I'm pretty sure the initials are... I don't remember what the initials on it are right now. Anyways, Cameron plans on renting out an apartment that's above Dell's, which Dell's is like a bar, but when he asks old Al, which is the owner of Dell's, he is denied that privilege. Cameron does research on Sowell Bay Aquarium, winds up finding out another picture of his mother with the same stranger. He learns that his name is Simon Brinks, and he theorizes that this is his long lost father because they look so happy together in the picture. So Cameron decides to seek him out, and he travels to Seattle, which I guess is where Sowell Bay is. Upon arriving in Seattle, because he uses a cheap airline called JoyJet, Cameron learns that his luggage has been lost. But he has camaraderie with a stranger named Elliot, and he offers him half of the sandwich and gets him a deal on a rundown camper that Cameron can use as transportation and shelter while he's waiting for his belongings to arrive and his money. Cameron begins to search for Simon Brinks. He starts by visiting the deli within a Shopway, which, if you remember, that's where Ethan Mack works. And anyways, while he's there, Ethan offers him company, and they wind up talking. When he leaves the deli, Cameron finds out that he has a flat tire, and generously, Ethan takes Cameron home and allows him to park the camper in his driveway. And then they're drinking together, obviously. And Cameron asks if he would hire him. And then Ethan says that he can't count on... he says that he can't hire Cameron because he has a grocer boy, bag boy already named Tanner. But he does know of a local vacancy. That, you know what this means.
When worlds collide, you can run,
but you can hide.
When worlds collide, you'll laugh so hard, you'll swear you died. When worlds collide, hold my hand, I'll be your guide. When worlds collide, buckle up for the sweetest ride, and prepare to have your mind blown wide. When worlds collide, when worlds collide.
When worlds collide, it's a curious thing that you never heard of about in a caveman scene. It is little chance for some work parts. How is that different from my beat-in art?
One night, while he's sitting on the couch, Cameron leaves the back door of the aquarium propped open.
I'm from the
and
future,
Marcellus uses the dog
but that don't mean the stranger wasn't built to last.
It was made in a lab, but I was born in a cave. So let me hear the holocaust either every way.
And until he's like up in the rafters, and he's like poking down in the room. And thankfully, Tova has just arrived to tell Marcellus that he decided to sell the house because obviously the octopus is her only friend.
You can run.
But you can hide.
Trying to sell the house, and the find in charge of
When worlds
and anyway,
collide.
she like comes up and is like has a bird whisper moment with Marcellus where she like puts her arm out and she's like, "It's okay, baby." And Marcellus climbs onto her arm and she puts him back into his tank. Tova introduces herself to Cameron and she makes him promise to keep Marcellus's escapades a secret so that he doesn't get in trouble and that he can continue having them. And Cameron does this because the thought of Tova losing her only friend makes him really sad. Meanwhile, Tova gets her assets in order. She's selling her house, and she's going to live in the Charter Village long-term care facility. Cameron starts to date Avery, which is this chick who is like a surfer, and he like runs into her, and he like has a really bad introduction to her, but he like does a second approach, and he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I had a bad day," and she's like, "Oh, okay." And then they kind of start having a situationship. Anyways, we discovered that Avery had a child at the age of 17, who is now 15, and his name is Marco. While paddleboarding, Avery tells Cameron about this one time where she talked a woman down from jumping off of the pier, and this is very important for later. This is a surprise tool that'll help us later. Cameron continues working at the aquarium, being mentored by Tova once she has recovered from her injury, and he finds himself actually enjoying his job for once in his life. He is also able to bond with Marcellus with the help of Tova. What's up with Marcellus? You might be wondering. I don't know how to say this. We're 1,360 days into his captivity, and I don't know if you remember how long giant Pacific octopi live, but it ain't much more than that. And that's not even counting how much time he was alive before being put into captivity. Marcellus is starting to slow down. He feels the consequences sooner than he used to. His appetite is waning, but he is determined to fill the hole in Tova's heart. How, you might ask? Sorry, this is time looming over us because Marcellus is slowly dying. According to Marcellus, he's an expert at detecting human heredity. And he can tell beyond a shadow of a doubt that Cameron is related to Tova. How can you tell this? They walk the same. For an octopus, I say that's a lot. But apparently they also have the same facial features and mannerisms, so let's trust Marcellus, because he's smarter than me. Mary Ann's luncheon. One of the aforementioned nitwits named Mary Ann is moving in with her daughter Laura because she can no longer take care for herself. This is another reason Tova has been thinking about putting herself in a home. Anyways, this Mary Ann is moving to Spokane. She's having a going away luncheon at a chop house in Elland. Do I know where any of these places are? No. While she's there, Tova discovers that Adam Wright has also been invited to the luncheon. And earlier in the story, we have this moment where Tova is at the park and she runs into Adam Wright and she offers him water because he's thirsty and he's like biking or something. And he helped her with her crossword puzzle. And then he recognized her as Eric's mother and he revealed himself to have been one of Eric's former friends during high school. Not a close one though, but he was friends with him. And anyways, he went to school with Laura and Eric. So he's been helping Laura with moving Mary Ann out. Adam has brought his significant other with him, a woman named Sandy. Adam has too much to drink, and he reveals that Eric had a lady friend before he died, but he can't remember her name.
Howdy, partner.
As you can tell, that was because there was a woman named Sandy. Conflict arises. One day, Tova sees Sandy at the shopway, and she is like, I need to know who Eric was seeing. And of course Sandy tells her because Sandy's a girl's girl. And anyways, the name of the girl that Eric was seeing was Daphne. Do we remember a Daphne? Maybe? Anyways, Ethan overhears this. Ethan remembers Daphne and Cassmore had a bad check, and he researches Cameron's connection to Daphne and Cassmore. And he realizes that they're related, and he needs to tell this to Tova. As such, Ethan invites Tova over for a dinner date. Unfortunately, a conflict with Cameron and a mishap with the Grateful Dead band t-shirt. Essentially, there's a Grateful Dead band t-shirt just in the cupboard for some reason, and Tova wants to do the dishes, and she thinks that it's a dirty dish rag, so she uses it to do the dishes because it's in the cupboard. And then Cameron is, like, pissed off at Ethan for a reason I can't remember. So Tova leaves early, meaning that Ethan is unable to tell her that Cameron is Daphne's son. Marcellus needs Tova and Cameron to realize the relationship before it's too late. As such, he goes so far as to steal Cameron's driver's license, and he hides it beneath the tail of the sea lion statue, because he knows only Tova will remember to clean it. A few days later, Tova and Cameron are cleaning, and she does find it. Tova confronts Cameron about his last name being Cassmore and asks if Daphne is his mother. Cameron is confused, and he tells her that she is, and that leads to Tova telling Cameron the entire story of Eric's disappearance. And then, the fact that his mother could have been involved in a tragic accident does not compute with Cameron, and he has always painted her as the villain in his mind, and he's been slowly having the capacity to be like, oh, my mom was a person too, and she might have been dealing with some shit, because she had me at such a young age. Anyways, Tova is shocked by the possibility that Cameron could be her grandson, but Cameron flees. Cameron's escapades. Cameron finally gets a call from Simon Brinks telling him to meet him. The meeting is down in Seattle, meaning that Cameron has to cancel a date with Avery in order to make it down there in time, but Avery's cool with this because it's important. He also calls Terry ahead of time to tell him that he will be arriving to a shift late. Cameron stops at the paddleboarding shop to tell Avery that they... Oh, actually, never mind. I made that up. Avery was not cool with him missing the date. He stops by the paddleboarding shop where Avery works, but Marco's the only one there, so Cameron tells Marco, he's like, hey, tell Avery that I can't make it to our date. So anyways, after this meeting, of course, Cameron learns that Simon Brinks is not his father, but he was just Daphne's best friend, and Cameron attempts to use the class ring as proof, but Simon actually brings out his own class ring, which has the initials on the back, which are SOB. For Simon, something Brinks. And the initials on Cameron's father's ring are EELS, which we will learn what that stands for. You might be able to guess what one of the E's stands for. And the S. Cameron is crushed, and after he gets off, Avery is like ghosting him. He decides to go back to Modesto, California, because everything is going wrong, and this is like the all is lost moment. Eels. Eric Ernest Lindgren Sullivan. His father is Eric. So Cameron returns. He has this moment where he stops at Sallow Bay for his belongings, and this includes the stop at the aquarium, and he has a breakdown about the ring and everything that's been going on, and he throws the ring into the wolf eel tank that's next to Marcellus, because he says that that's where Eels belongs. And then we get this heroic little moment from Marcellus, who is afraid of wolf eels because wolf eels were the things that attacked him when he was in the ocean and he had to get captured to be rehabilitated. Anyways, he decides that he has to retrieve the ring as is the final piece of evidence that Tova will need to realize Cameron's relationship to Eric. Marcellus has past trauma with eels, like I just mentioned, but despite this, he enters the wolf tank to retrieve the ring. Here is a wolf eel, and this is Marcellus taking Marcellus' final act of selflessness. So, not only was it enough that Marcellus went into the tank to retrieve the ring while they were gone, Tova is cleaning on her final night at the aquarium. When she goes to say goodbye to Marcellus, he's no longer in his tank, and she thinks that this means that Marcellus is dead because the new octopus is there. But when she's on the way to the door, she notices something on the floor. It's Marcellus! Yeah, Marcellus, he is on the floor. And he has brought her the ring. Tova gets a mop bucket to resubmerge him in the water, which I'm not sure the logistics of this, because octopi have, really, absorbent skin, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they're similar to frogs. And their skin is probably really absorbent. So I'm pretty sure any lingering cleaning chemicals in the bucket would, kill him. But he's, gonna die anyway, so who cares? And investigating the ring, everything clicks into place, because, obviously, Tova recognizes it, and Tova knows for sure that Cameron is her grandson, and she is very sad that he left. She takes the mop bucket out onto the pier, and she releases Marcellus into the ocean so that he can be happy in his final moments. Tova sits at the pier for a long time, and she thinks about things. Avery runs up to Tova, hoping she knows about Cameron's location, because, Marco did not pass on the message that Cameron left for Avery at the paddleboarding shop, so she thinks that he's just up and left, and Tova explains that Cameron has left. They're both really sad, and Avery tells Tova about the woman that she once talked down at the pier. The woman spoke of an accident, of a boom. Tova has this big brain moment, and she realizes that the boom of the ship is what locked Eric into the water, causing him to drown. Most importantly, she realizes that this woman was Daphne Ann Cassmore, aka Cameron's mother. Avery muses whether it was a good thing she talked the woman down, and Tova tells her that it was. Final resolution. Cameron, after finally sleeping, realizes that he has made a grave error in leaving Sallow Bay, and he decides to return. He shows up at Tova's house, uninvited, very early in the morning. First of all, not a good impression. Tova tells Cameron the news, and they're very happy, and Tova goes to give Cameron a tour of his great-grandfather's house. While they're in Eric's old room, Cameron notices that one of the floorboards is, different than the others, and of course, it's a whole secret compartment, and inside they find old snacks and the 6th Dallo horse, which is fully intact, which I didn't mention earlier in the story, because I didn't know it was important yet. But essentially, when he was a child, Eric had broken a Dallo horse of Tova's, which is, a little, I don't know if I have a picture of it, basically, Tova was like, oh, I never found out what happened to that 6th Dallo horse. Boom, it was under the floorboard the entire time. And Eric fixed it, because he felt bad for breaking it. Then we have a little bit of a time skip. Tova and Ethan Max start seeing each other, and I think Cameron and Avery come over to play Scrabble. And then they get a new octopus whose name I don't remember. But I remember it's Terry's daughter who gets to name the octopus, and she names her something silly. Anyways, Toa loves the new octopus and is talking to her every day, and she's like, "You are smart like Marcellus, and we are going to be friends." And that's the end of the story. So, what did I think of this book? I loved this book so much. It was very, very sweet, very wholesome. Um, and uh I didn't outline what I was going to say about it. As I mentioned, the only qualms I had with it being just tiny logistical errors, and so overall I just thought it was really nice. I thought that the connection between Cameron and Tova was kind of odd, to be honest, and I thought it was a little anticlimactic because I was hoping that Eric got murdered and that we were going to solve a murder mystery, judging by the description of the book. But I thought it was still cool, anyways. So, anyways, that's my review of Remarkably Bright Creatures. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars on my Goodreads. Um, yeah. Thank you for listening to me ramble about this book for 20 minutes. Um, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you also got jump scared by the giant piles of bubblegum, and that the MIDI file will haunt your dreams forever. Ciao.